Welcome back. Once again, adventurers, let's play ChäoS Head. In the last episode, Takumi managed to run into Daisuke, who had found where both Rimi and Ayase were, down in the lower level of the adjacent building. At least, I think they were in the courtyard area or something. My memory isn't failing me, but nonetheless, the pair were surprised when Ayase, completely out of the blue, slapped Rimi hard across the face with her bare hand. Again, bit of a shock there, but unbeknownst to Takumi, his home base is being scouted out by none other than Sena, being tailed by a very hesitant, nervous Kozue Orihara. And unfortunately, Sena has stumbled upon the grade 4 essay in Takumi's treasure box, as well as the diagram and formula scribbled on the back, which doesn't bode well. But at the present moment, Ayase has returned to her room, and she has actually let both Daisuke and Takumi inside. Ayase sat down on the bed. Mizumi-kun, more nonchalant than ever, took a seat beside her. Still not giving up. Stubborn as a mule, this one. What audacious behavior. Unthinkingly reel back at Mizumi-kun's aggressive posture. Ayase cast a glance at him, then fixed her line of sight on me. Also remembering the fact that she did smile forlornly at Takumi before entering. When she looked at me straight on, I became unsure as to what kind of face to make in response. In the end, I hung my head. Isn't actually a topic of conversation about the subway here, especially in Daisuke's presence.
気がどう?もうだいぶ良くなってるみたいだけど。
Well, that's a little bit more tactful there, Daisuke.
なんか必要なものあるなら遠慮なく言ってよ。俺がすぐ買ってきてやるぜ。
I would take him up on that free offer there. Ayase, he'd do it too, free of charge. He focused intently on Ayase's hand. Seemed like he was scheming to hold her lithe and slender hand. Seemed like doesn't enter into it. Would it be okay for me to leave, I wonder? We should actually probably go check in on Rimi and see how she's doing.
あ、小説とか読む?俺さ、グラジオールサーガってのが好きなんだけど。岸本さん知ってる?
Points for trying, but points deducted nonetheless, because that is a very poor choice of conversation to start from, because you know absolutely nothing about the Glacial saga, nor for I, for that matter. At least I'm admitting it here and now. And to ask Ayase if she has read it is very patronizing. Well, patronizing is actually a grievous understatement, really.
Takumi.
But she's nonetheless intent on, well, Takumi. But she's still more interested about probably whether he's still being pursued by the authorities. Without answering Mizumi-kun's inquiry, Ayase called my name.
君はグラジオールの7騎士の一人よ。
That's another way of saying that Takumi is one of the gigalomaniacs. But if there is some truth to the whole glacial mythology here, most of which isn't true, but say we take it in stride. We have 4 gigalomaniacs. Ayase, Sena, Kozue, and of course Takumi, albeit the only one without a D-sword. That possibly means that if we're going logically here, there might be 3 undiscovered gigalomaniacs left. However, this is neither provable nor disprovable at this point in time.
Huh?
Unfortunately, Daisuke is more than a little put out here. Well, if it makes you feel any better, and I doubt it would, you're not being rebuffed so much as completely and utterly ignored. But it isn't a rejection. Just think of it as two entirely different conversations.
Eh?
She'd gone occult on me all of a sudden. I guess even the ruckus over her failed suicide attempt wasn't enough to change her fundamental nature. I hate to break it to you, Daisuke, but romance is the last thing on Ayase's mind, which is even more the sadder because it is the first thing and the only thing that is on yours.
やっぱり導きだったんだわ。君と私が出会ったのは。
And of course, there is a double meaning here as far as Daisuke is concerned, a very flawed double meaning there. Quietly, simply, Ayase spoke, without preamble or any sort of nonsense. Well, as far as nonsense goes, contemporary nonsense. And we'll leave it at that. About a setting I could only think as being some middle school student's rebellious fantasy. Of course, if you would utter those words aloud, she would probably give you the sewer treatment.
君の邪心はとても強大。だからこそ言うことなしなのよ。黒騎士としての素質は。
Unfortunately, Ayase's perceptions of her abilities and her powers are an error in and of themselves, to use Senna's terminology there.
君が今経験している苦しみは、すべて神罰。大いなる意志による試練なの。
Or in layman's terms, another delusion.
それを乗り越えたときに、理想度は召喚されるわ。君の手に、必ず。
Unfortunately, Ayase, that is not how D-swords work. And to prove this, you already have your D-sword, but you have not overcome your own personal trials and tribulations, because that is not how D-swords work.
そして、現れるのよ。
Oh, it's appeared. It's just that at this moment in time, Takumi has no way to actually interact with it.
邪神の黒き大蛇。あらゆる崩壊を飲み込み、邪神王の身を砕くことのできる。同質にして、異質なるものが。
I think if Senna were here, even she would be cringing. And as for Kozue, who can read people's hearts, she would definitely be utterly lost.
現実なの。グラジオールも、理想度も。カマイたちが、その証よ。
I take it Kamaitachi is what you've chosen to designate your key sword. Key sword? D sword. I was thinking of Keyblades from Kingdom Hearts there for a second there. Don't know why I did that. But suddenly getting Samadare vibes from from a certain shrine, shall we say.
実在しない現象は、後世に言葉として残ることはないわ。知っている？語源を。
That is a question that we can answer with absolute certainty, and that certainty is no.
構えたち。それは理想度を意味しているの。信じて、匠。
One point, Ayase. Daisuke doesn't know what D-swords are, and even if he did, He can't see yours.
グラジオールを倒すのよ。一緒に。
Yeah, Daisuke is going to be listening to this very irritatedly, much to Takumi's misfortune. Gladiol. I remember now. I'd seen it when I'd first looked up D-swords. It had said the D-sword was a sword that originally appeared in pseudo-epigraphia. That is a pretty complex word. And other forms of literature discussing the legend of Gladiol on the online wiki. But a medieval mythology tale is simply that. Mythology. I think certain someone is getting rather impatient. Mizumi-kun quietly stood up and walked over in my direction. If you think there is something romantic going on here, Daisuke, you are wrong. Dead wrong. And Takumi can attest to this. As he brushed by me, he put a hand on my shoulder and...
俺、外に出てるわ。
Yeah, I think this is too much for you to handle. You struck out twice, and now you're out for good.
タク、押し倒しちまえよ。俺の読みじゃ、岸本はお前に脈ありだぜ。
Your guess is 100% completely wrong, but this time I won't hold it against you. This time.
え?
And so he goes. After grinning mischievously, he really did leave. Afterward, of course, I was left behind with Ayase. And it's time for a delusion. But which one did I pick? Silence. Though she single-handedly gone on and on about her odd beliefs, Ayase now looked down, rolling and unrolling the hem of her pajamas over and over. Would it be bad if I didn't say anything? Couldn't tell you. But I hadn't understood a word of what she'd said to me. No. I was paying her a visit in the hospital, so all I probably needed to do was say something considerate about how she was doing and leave it at that. But considering how she was being hospitalized in the psych ward, it didn't seem like I could casually ask her about her condition or anything. What should I do? At this rate, I would have been better off leaving with Mizumi-kun. Probably a good idea.
匠、
She gave me a start when she called my name. Ayase raised her face and extended both her hands toward me.
来て。はっ。こっちに来て。
I didn't know what she'd do to me if I refused, so I took a single confused step toward the bed.
もっと。
At her urging, I took another step. Her hands touched mine. Seizing them, she pulled me closer still. She lowered her face again. She stared steadily at my hands.
君は私を救ってくれた。
No, I think she might be telling the truth.
命の恩人よ。
That wasn't true. I'd only happened to save Ayase's life. Yet, that is exactly what you did. For starters, I wasn't completely sure whether I had really been the one who gave rise to that flower bed. Well, unless somebody else imagined the flower bed being there.
ありがとう。
Ayase's voice broke. Could she be crying?
Mm.
warm sensation at the tip of my finger. When I looked down, wondering what it was, Ayase had for some reason taken my pointer finger in her mouth.
ちょ
Something soft and hot touched the end of my finger. It squirmed as though to envelop my finger and press between my nails and my flesh. How the hell had things ended up like this? Despite my bewilderment, I was unable to defy the pleasure of it, and I let Ayase do as she pleased with me. She was only licking my finger, so why did it feel so...
ラメ
All of a sudden, the pleasure changed to a jolt of pain. Ayase bit down hard on my finger.
いってやめちょ
I thought she'd chewed me right down to the bone. It hurt that badly. Once I frantically shook my hand, my finger finally slid out of Ayase's mouth. Terrified by her bewitching smile, I examined the bite wound on my finger. My finger glistening with Ayase's saliva. There was tooth marks on it, and blood oozed out. The blood wasn't red. It was horribly black.
その血の色が黒騎士の証よ
Well, that was oddly disturbing. By having such delusions, I somehow managed to get through Ayase's incomprehensible story. Another daydream, since we had the negative delusion the last time. I hadn't listened to a word of it, but she didn't notice. She went on and on as always, earnestly talking about glacial and wicked hearts and who knew what else.
すべてはお告げよ
In reality, Ayase is continuing with her story.
すでに渋谷に集っているはずなの7人の黒騎士は
So either Ayase, well, it should be obvious that she entirely believes her own story wholeheartedly, but could it be that, we have no evidence that gigalomaniacs instinctively can sense each other out, telepathically or Esper-wise, since such a power would definitely be a delusion in and of its own right.
あとは全員が覚醒するだけ
But there might yet be other gigalomaniacs who have yet to actually manifest their latent powers after all.
急がないと世界は滅びるわグラジオールの手によって
I don't think it's Gladiol that is going to do that. But oh well, should probably leave her to it. Shoulders slumped in disappointment, Mizumi-kun and I descended to the first floor of the hospital wing, which is where we're going to end this episode of Let's Play ChäoS Head. And when we return, adventurers, hopefully we can find Rimi and get the hell out of the hospital. As always, adventurers, until next we meet.